Hi, welcome back. This is week 3, and the only administrative announcement I have is just reminding everybody, please do check in with me on the presentation. I want to talk to every presentation team by email or any other way you want, just to be sure this is something that you are invested in, and also that you've got the topic you like, and I'll be glad to help in all of that. But I do need to talk to each one of the teams by email or any other way that is convenient for you very soon. Okay, this week a lot of things to cover. Let's see what they are. These are the learning objectives, and I hope you'll find some of these particularly interesting and also appropriate for today's COT world. These are the actual assignments. I'll talk very briefly about each one of them. You're going to find Hans Rolsing a really interesting character if you haven't seen his work before, because it's become world famous now, and those of you who might be interested can use the software he uses. Some students have taken it on. It's called Gapminder, and some have really enjoyed it. El Sistema is my favorite of all the videos. We're featuring South America this time, and so I hope that'll be useful. Florida used to be a professor here. His idea of the world being spiky is a fascinating one to many people. It's a completely different view of the world than sometimes we have. Rebecca McKinnon, I've included her. That's the T part of that's kind of a geek lecture, but I think you're going to find her perspective. It's about a year old now. Persuasive and interesting. When you get to the Engelhardt article, it's one of the assigned ones this time, you're going to find a sample. This is a very well-known cultural map that he and his colleagues have put together. The self-expression values are on the vertical chart, the horizontal, and the secular rational values on the vertical. These are part of the process that many of these researchers go through, is getting people in countries to describe how they feel about things. So if you're in the upper right-hand corner, like Sweden, you have very high self-expression values, and you also have very high secular rational values. He explains it all in the article, and the fact that he filled all those in that sort of puzzle-like way, it's interesting, but I want you to be critical about it, because the fact that he's put together the Confucians and the South Asians and the Africans in one place doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. So I think you'll find it interesting, challenging, and I hope controversial. The Grandona article is going to tell you about something that at least that researcher thinks is possible, that some cultures, some entire cultures and regions and countries, and maybe even states, are just resistant to development. There's a bunch of things, he lists 20 of them, that are development resistant. The behavior of elites, that's Montaner's, he's also from South America, he's from Cuba. He's interested in the fact that at least 6 different elite groups are the ones that very much impede cultural development. I'll say a few minutes in a few moments a little more about Schein's work on organizational assumptions. The blog culture, I'm hoping that everybody will take me up on my suggestion that everybody at least subscribe to a half dozen or so blogs. This week I'm going to send you in my weekly note, I send Friday or Saturday, a sample of maybe 50, 60 blogs you can pick from, but I hope you're already selecting your own. The culture in Latin America, as I mentioned, is one of our themes. Richard Florida's concept of spikiness is too. Weber's Protestant ethic, I spoke a little bit about that in class. Of course, you've read about it a little bit in the Landis article. But I would suggest that since it's such a fascinating way of presenting something, that you just take a quick look, Google it if you want to, look it up, and just get a better feel for it, because he's not saying that Protestants have, all Protestants are there are about 2 billion Christians in the world today, 1.5 billion Muslims, and about half of those Christians are what could be called Protestant, another half are called Catholics. So he's not speaking for all Protestants, all the 1 billion Protestants in the world. He's speaking for this group of Protestants that he happened to note in the part of Germany he knew about, but he's making a very interesting claim. So review the claim, see what you think of it, and also of him. The wealth and culture reading, that's just skim through that, but HNWI, high net worth individuals. Again and again, I'm trying to give you something every week that will be appropriate for your studies of of the of the blogs, and also of various kinds of indexes. Speaking of indexes, here's one that's probably the best known of all. It's called the Human Development Index. It's put out by the United Nations, and you can read all about it in the United Nations publications we have available for this course. There are 4 indicators: GDP per capita, expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling, life expectancy of birth, and 3 dimensions: living standards, education, and health. And you grind those through the grinder, and you get an index, a number, ranking all the countries of the world from top to bottom. And usually Sweden is right up there, Norway, some of those countries are at the very top. There's a whole bunch of other countries that might not surprise you, sometimes called failed state countries, that are at the very bottom. So we'll look into this a whole lot more as the course goes on, but just wanted you to know that's available. It's called the Human Development Index, HDI, and it's a very significant, powerful, highly recommended index. And as always, I hope you will go to the source, which I give you in your, you can just click on it from the readings that we have at the Blackboard site, and see how they get it. See whether you agree with the way they do it. Now I'd like to say a little bit about the the work that Shine is presenting to us. Chapters 5, 6, and 7. This is all about assumptions about external adaptation issues, and Shine basically puts it this way. I'm only going to take about 2 minutes to give you a little bouillon cube of this, but he says all groups and organizations face 2 archetypal problems: survival and adaptation to external environment, and integration of the internal process to ensure the capacity and continue to survive and adapt. And that's basically a very significant part of his studies, because those 2 issues are very important to him, because we not only want to have this capability, but we also want to find ways to survive with it. And one of his favorite, and my favorite 2 examples, when he was with the Ciba-Geigy group, which produced this really terrific product that could become a rug freshener. It was a very successful potential product. And one of the fellows working in this company said, "Shine, that isn't even a product." In other words, it may be useful for people, but it's not what we do. So that's a cultural issue. Notice the examples he uses of producing flutes and brandy, 2 entirely different processes and very different results. The most important conclusion that he comes up in this chapter is that culture is a multidimensional, multifaceted phenomenon, not easily reduced to a few major dimensions. In chapter 6, these are assumptions about managing internal integration and some of the problems, like common language, group boundaries, power and authority, status, norms, trust and friendship, allocating rewards, and particularly punishments, because he maintains that if the punishments aren't clear, and there are a few examples of how they work, then they're not too important. Explaining the unexplainable. Why are we all moving to a different city? Why do we have to do that? He has a very interesting area in there about family companies. So look that over. He's interested in that, and it brings up some very important cultural as well as organizational issues. And finally, in chapter 7, deeper cultural assumptions. And there he's talking about reality and truth, time, space, human nature, levels of anxiety, external physical reality, social reality. His summary is basically what is a fact, what is information, and what is truth. They each depend not only on shared knowledge of formal language, but also on content and consensus. So you find your own areas of interest here. I've just given you a couple that I like, and I hope you'll find the Shine reading interesting. Good luck this week. I hope it's all good for you, and that you're beginning to get used to this approach. Thanks a lot.